Spirit Switchboard, airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3, New Orleans. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spirit Switchboard. I am your host, Kerrilynn Shellhorn, and you are listening to us live on 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. Today we have an extra special guest. It is my son, Taylor Ciccotelli. He is going to be joining me from Calgary, and we are going to be talking about paranormal conspiracies today. Thanks for joining me, Taylor.
Hi, Mom.
Fun, right?
It is fun. Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
I was thinking about what I would say when we started, I think, for the week that you gave me a heads up that we'd be doing this today.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're here, I have no idea what to say, but hi, Mom.
Well, I think it's fun. I think for people that don't know us, you are my oldest son, my firstborn kiddo, which is
here.
Yeah, my firstborn. And you moved to Calgary.
Alberta. I did. I flew the coop. I left the nest.
Yeah.
Yeah. First one to do it. Twice, actually.
And how long ago did you move?
I've been here for 2 years now. Calgary is, I feel like I don't want to talk about it because if I talk about it, I'm going to be giving up the secret that Calgary is actually an awesome city. It's it has a reputation as being cowboy town, and I feel like I should stay on brand for the episode today, but I feel like I should create a conspiracy theory live now that it is exactly as bad as you think it is. Wink. It is actually awesome. Like Calgary is so inviting. It's so kind. The people here are amazing. I'm a weirdo, and everyone I met just like scooped me up and like made me feel right at home.
Did you remember when we lived in Edmonton? Because we lived when you were small.
All of it.
We lived just outside of Edmonton on the military base there for a period of time. So So I have gone to places where, whether it's deja vu or a comfort level, actually Tupelo, Mississippi was one of them, where there was just such a comfort level, it felt like being at home. So did Calgary have that feel for you when you landed?
Not when I landed, actually. When I landed, it was like it fell at the middle of the night because it was dark because I moved here in November. And when I got here and I was looking around near the airport where it's flat and kind of like bordering on the plains into the rest of Alberta, I felt like I was making a horrible mistake because I took off from Ontario in like the height of autumn, and it was like beautiful trees and the rolling green hills and woods everywhere. It was so lush in Ontario, and you land in Alberta and it's like cold and flat and the grass is brown and there's no trees, and it felt like such a mistake. But it did. I know, like, to your question, yeah, absolutely. Like, as it warmed up, because a lot of my memories I have of when we were here in Edmonton or in the summer, I don't have a lot of winter memories, but we're all in the summer, and seeing the 2 summers that I've had in Calgary, seeing the grass, seeing the plains, seeing the low rolling hills, like nostalgia that I didn't think I'd have before. It felt like coming home, which is in I guess the story that we have, like a very rare experience.
Well, you're an urban explorer too.
I love it. Yeah.
Like, you make a point of exploring places that you go to.
Yeah. I lived in Canmore, Alberta for 5 months before I actually even moved down to Calgary. But I was doing it there, and I've been doing it here. My first 2 months of living in Calgary, I'm looking out my window, looking at the city right now. My first 2 months in Calgary, all I did was just travel around on foot. I would purposely leave my phone at home and then go get myself lost somewhere in the city just so I could find my way home, so I could find my bearings, find the weird little like secret spots that cities always seem to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just let the intuition guide me. I made a lot of friends that way. I made a lot of clients that way too, which was like how I built up my clientele that got
Right.
out here.
So that's something that you have sort of followed in my footsteps, and it seems to be a family thing. So
It
I
is.
used to be a hairstylist. It was my job when you guys were small. That was my career, and my sister, so Aunt Christy, and um, my sister-in-law, Uncle
Yeah.
Corey's wife, so is a hairstylist as well too. It's just in the
And now
family.
me. And now me.
Yeah.
My
Now
turn. I'm
you're
carrying the
barbering.
torch.
Yeah, carrying the
Yeah.
torch. And it's such it's an intimate job. Like it's a very intimate job.
It's incredibly intimate. Um, about as intimate as I think I could possibly stand it.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
as much
Do
as I
you
love
get
people,
people that ask for quiet cuts? Because that's a thing
all
now.
the time, all the time. I've got my people that like love the um, opportunity to be still. They love that they don't have to say anything or talk.
Right.
And I've got the opposite too. I have my chatterbox clients, and they're
Yeah.
amazing, and I love them. They're so much fun. I have. I had a compliment given to me recently that my all of my people are like outwardly weird. Like they wear their weird on the outside, which I said like thank you. Like I hope I that's what I want.
Right.
Uh,
Well, to
but
create
yeah, I've
a
got my
safe,
quiet
vulnerable
people.
space, right? A safe,
Yeah,
vulnerable space for them to be able to
100%.
just be, right?
100%. But yeah, I've got my quiet people, and they're like, if it was a video game, they would be like the save point where you can just like rest and take a break from the nonstop, like heightened level of attention that you're
Right.
in. Where you're just like, just being, if you feel like a child at a beach, just getting slammed with waves of like people's emotions all day long, and then you have someone sit in your
Right.
chair and they're like, I actually just want to like be quiet and maybe fall asleep for the next hour. Like, yeah, I'm so down for that. That sounds
And
good for me too.
there's something soothing about, having somebody's fingers in your hair, and
Oh,
you
it
can
feels
just
amazing.
you feel the tongue coming down off the roof of your mouth and your jaw relaxing and your shoulders relaxing.
Totally,
You just get into
totally.
that space, right?
I have a couple of clients of mine that fall asleep every single time I cut their hair.
Wow.
They pass right out. One of them dropped a cup of coffee. I
Oh
I
dear.
was watching it happen. It was like a don't worry, it was like a
Slow-mo
paper
movement.
cut, but I
Yeah.
was watching it slowly happen, and there was a part of me. It was the intrusive thoughts that were just like, you should just let it fall. I just wanted to see if it actually like would just drop onto the floor, and I let it happen. I don't know why I did. I don't know why I did that, but
Did the client wake up then?
oh yeah, he snapped away. Yeah, like did I do that? I was like, no, nah, it was somebody else, man.
The ghost of the shop.
Yeah. Actually, we do have a ghost story. Our
Tell me
shop
the go
does
So
have a
tell
ghost
me
story.
tell everybody where you're working. That's
So I'm working at Johnny's Barbershop in Calgary, Alberta. There's two locations. I'm specifically working at the one on First Street, just off of Stephen Ave,
right.
which is it's the oldest road in Calgary. Oh, it might be the second oldest. It's one of the two, but it's old. You can feel it. It was built right across from the Palliser Hotel. It's like 150 years old. Calgary's
Right.
not that old, but 150 years is still like 150 years.
Yeah.
Um,
And a hotel brings its own baggage
oh
of
yeah. Oh,
spirits and
totally,
ghosts. So
totally, totally. This has become like famous shop lore. It was right before Christmas. The shop was full. It was really, really busy. Um, and where I'm sitting, I can see the door directly, not sitting, like where I'm working, right behind my chair. I can see the front door very clearly. And it's really heavy door. You got to give it a lot of love to actually like open it up. This is all context of the story. But the shop is full, music's on, we're all talking, we're all laughing. Everybody's got someone in their chair, and all of us hear this sound on the door. This I hope this picks up. You can just hear like that, and then the door flies open and then slowly comes shut again. And it was the wildest thing because we were all just like, you guys just see that? Like everyone just stopped and watched it happen by like the second knock. We all like looked at the door and it just threw open and it shut. And there was like the stillness in the air was so thick. Like everyone's like, guys, did you see that? Did you see that? And we like everyone was
Did
weirded out. The
anybody
shot,
say hello? How you
no,
doing? Thanks for coming
um,
in.
Steven did actually. Yeah, my boss. He went to the door and he looked at it and he was like, "Hello." Like he opened it up. He's like, "Hello," and then closed it. And then we just like it was okay. Just like dry off the palms real quick, and we'll just go back to work. Weird. We like tested it too. There was like a solid week of like the most. I don't know how you describe it. Like average person's paranormal investigation happening where we were like super unequipped to like handle dealing with a ghost in the house, but for
Right.
like but we still do. We say goodnight to the building now.
Right.
It
And all
has,
that stuff matters because at
totally
the end of it, if that spirit's there and they were trying to get attention in order to be crossed over, that energy would amp up until you absolutely had to pay attention to it. Sometimes they just want to hang out because it's the environment. And so debunking can, that's smart to make sure that it's not air pressure that changed into, that crosswind with the door being open somewhere else within the
100%.
space,
You
all that
can't.
good
It's like
stuff.
suction cup closed. Like you have to
Right.
like really, really open it up.
Right.
And Calgary gets windy, and it's never blown open before ever, and it hasn't
Right.
since. Like the door's never like done it again, and maybe it just needed whatever's there in that shop just needed attention. So
It'd be
now, as a
interesting.
rule, we say good night, Johnny's, when we leave the shop at night, and
Oh, that's fun.
it's good.
And I think so that still feeds the energy to it, right? So
It's
so are you manifesting more to potentially happen, or who knows? I guess time will tell, right?
who knows? Who knows? Nothing's happened since. So I think whatever was there just needed us to know that it was there. That's
Yeah.
how I've interpreted it.
Yeah.
But it's the weirdest thing that's ever happened with the shop, and we
That's
still
super
talk about
fun.
it to this day. Oh yeah, it's great. It's great.
You need to check the history of the building and the land.
It's old. Yeah, it's old. I think the building's 100 years old. I know that the brick is still the original brick of the building, and the brick itself is 100 years old. So
Interesting.
very 100 years is a
All of
long.
that would was it there's a term. There is a term. I actually wrote it down because it was attached to one of the stories that I wanted to talk about today. So let me just bear with me for a second. Let's see if I can come to it fast.
I'm trying to pull it up in my head too. I feel like I know what you're gonna say.
Stone tape theory.
Oh no idea. I don't know what this is. Okay.
So stone tape theory is when the location or the place records any of the negativity that happens and it replays it.
Oh.
So
Oh, interesting.
if something happened into that place, so it's and
Like
I may, if anybody wants to, shoot me a message, it's kerrilynn.shelhorn@gmail.com to let me know more about it. You feel free. Like you
stone
can,
tape theory.
yes,
That's really
stone
fascinating.
tape theory. So
That's really fascinating.
yes, that's
So what
part
is
of
that?
one
Is
of the
that like
stories.
places where okay, so someone gets murdered in a house, and
Mhm,
then 30 years later another person gets murdered in the exact same house.
mhm,
Like this is a movie, but the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, where like this
mhm,
seems to happen pretty often,
mhm.
where like a family goes crazy and kills each other in the hotel. Would that be like stone tape theory?
I think
It's
so.
gotta be, right? Or
I
would it be
think
like
so. Let's check.
some sort of
I'm gonna check.
check it, pull it up. Um,
I'm gonna check.
what an alluring word.
Right?
Yeah,
The
it's really good.
specul the speculation that ghosts and hauntings are anal anal
Political?
analogous?
No,
I'm trying
analogous.
Thank you. To tape
Yeah.
recordings, and that mental impressions during emotional traumatic events can be projected in the form of energy recorded onto rocks or other items and replayed under certain circumstances.
Spooky.
Right? So, you
Spooky.
know, which would make sense when you think about like all the buildings that tend to have amped up spirit activity when they're being renovated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you're kicking the ghosts up like dust. Everyone's settled into the walls and settled into the floor, and now you're moving things around, and now you broke up their home. It's almost like you're scrubbing a film tape or something.
Do you
like stop it?
Do you remember?
Maybe.
Well, you've got that memory for stuff that you read, for sure.
Yeah.
Like you remember everything you read. I was just gonna ask about like growing up and not necessarily having. Well, we did have a few ghost interactions for sure. We had weird things happen in different places that we lived because we did live kind of across the country, being military when you guys were smaller. But paranormal conspiracies and stuff too. Like as a kid. I don't think we really had conspiracies that we talked about. It was just
they weren't conspiracies. They were just like a story or something, or a concept, like fake the flat Earth. I knew about flat Earth when I was a kid, and even as a child, I was like, that's silly. That's preposterous. And you can fly up and you can just see it. You can see it round. You get high enough. So like, but as a kid,
Sasquatch and Bigfoot has always been a thing that we've talked about.
Always. Like the concept or the theory of like supernatural entities or mysterious creatures like Loch Ness Monster, things like that. Like that always fascinated me. I remember being really scared of hopping into lakes because of things like the Loch Ness Monster, where I was like, there's definitely bigger things underwater that we don't know are there. Like and that grew up, or as I grew up, that turned into like hearing about the recording that they picked up. There was like I think it was in the Atlantic Ocean. You can look it up easily if you look up the bloop, if you've ever heard of that. This like audio recording in the Atlantic Ocean near the Marianas Trench of this long rumbling noise it's not connected to, and like researchers were drawing conclusions like it's not connected to like any sort of biological result. Like it wasn't something that like the earth shifting that happens all the time. It was more of like a guttural kind of like bassy noise, like whale song.
Which was something that you were attacked. Like whales were a thing for you when you were.
Whales were a thing for me. Well, they're fascinating.
Yeah. Blue whales and their sound. Specifically blue whales and their sound.
Yeah. Well, they're like sea monsters in a way.
Right. So and then I guess in getting older, do you remember how old you would have been when National Treasure, Nicolas Cage's movie National Treasure came out?
Oh, I was in the 5th grade. No, 4th grade. I was in the 4th grade. So however old you are, like 11, 10, something like that.
But that was fun, like that whole conspiracy theory. We're going to talk about a White House actually conspiracy theory and a little bit today too.
You know what? I want to now that you phrase it like that, I think that National Treasure may have been my first like introduction to the concept of like a grand conspiracy, which is interesting because it's a Disney movie.
So then, what is a conspiracy?
What is a conspiracy? Oh, who knows? It's a lot of things.
Paranormal conspiracy. What would a good paranormal conspiracy entail?
Well, I feel like a conspiracy would involve. What makes it juicy? That's what I'm interested in, because I feel like a conspiracy would. I don't actually know what the definition of conspiracy is off the top of my head, but it's like a cover up, a secret, some sort of seeking a truth of something that we can't explain. And I find that the really like juicy ones are the ones that, to me anyway, are just fun. I like my conspiracy theories lighthearted. There's super obvious ones in the real world or politics, but those ones don't really interest me because they don't really play with my imagination in a way that like the Earth being hollow does. That one, I think that one inspires like a sort of mystery or a fantasy to it, and also nobody gets hurt in that kind of theory, and I like that. I prefer it when it's a little bit lighter.
Right. So when we decided that we were going to just have conversations about paranormal conspiracies, we both, were getting pretty giddy about all the different conspiracies. And I had a few that you hadn't heard about, and you had made a list of some, and there was a few that I hadn't heard about. So do you want to go first with
Yeah, I've got my notes with me because you and I are the same sort of thinker.
Yep. Yeah, I had to write
paper
stuff
thinker.
down too. Yep.
Yeah.
And it helps me remember. When I write stuff, I have to write it actually a fair bit.
You can't put it in your phone. No, it's different.
I need the feel of the paper and the pen.
Yeah, and then I feel like I'm putting it down forever. Oh, there's so much. I feel like I want to start with like honorary mentions. Is that a decent place to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got a couple of big ones that I have thought about a lot or stuck with me, but I do have a couple like honorary mentions to my favorite conspiracy theories.
I want to grab a pen.
Grab a pen.
Okay, I've got a pen.
Okay, the concept of mass hysteria is something that I think about all the time. There's two cases of it in particular, both in France and both around like the medieval ages in like the 1500s. So I don't know if this still happens or not, but I feel like that. Remember that whole killer clown thing? Do you remember that? Right.
They were just showing up. These clowns are just showing up and scaring people.
Yeah, that was weird, right?
Yes, that was weird.
And there was something about how they weren't really connected in any real way. They were just people doing it. There were no like chat groups people were finding. There was no like connection. People were just doing it. Well, apparently this stuff's been happening since the 1500s. There's two cases. There's one in, I was hoping I'm saying right, Strasbourg, France, the dancing plague of 1518. Have you heard of this before?
No.
Okay, so
but if it's the dancing plague, I'm all over it. For those that don't know, I used to teach dancing for the longest time. Started dancing at age 4, and I was teaching dancing till I was like 7 months pregnant with my second child. So
you would love this song.
Dancing plague, bring it on. Tell me all about it.
There's not a lot of information about it because it happened like
in the 1500s. So
in the 1500s, but there was accounts of this town that got hit with the dancing plague where one person started dancing and they couldn't stop. And then more and more people kept dancing and then they couldn't stop. And people were dancing to the point of death. They were dancing to the point that they just like dropped down dead from exhaustion. And I think it happened over the course of an entire day. But like people that weren't affected by it were like feeding and giving water to the people that were dancing while they like begged like God to make them stop. It was actually quite horrific. I know I just said that I like my conspiracy theories light, but sometimes I kind of like when they get a little dark.
Sometimes it's a little dark. But then what could could it have been a bacteria that made them sick? Who
knows?
I mean, it's the 1500s, so any of that's possible. But
who knows?
I mean, everyone usually blames demons right off the hop, so that's usually what people go to is the demonic. So
totally, especially in that time period too, like at the height of the medieval age, 1500s. You got the height of like Christianity, totally like living in the core belief system of like every person there. So who knows what it was? I'm sure at the time everybody thought it was a demonic possession. There's no way that they didn't think that, but it just stopped. And that one's really weird. There really isn't much about it, but like the image, you can find a lot of paintings people have drawn about it, or like books.
Interesting. Okay,
there's not a lot of sources.
What else is on your honorary mention?
Another mass hysteria case is the meowing nuns of, again, happened in France. The meowing nuns.
The meowing nut. I'm gonna probably think about this all night now. I will be down a rabbit hole tonight with that.
Meowing nuns. There's two cases. There's the meowing nuns, and I think I can't remember where I read what date it is, and I should have done my homework more.
That's okay.
But I remember it was like in a book called The Epidemics of the Medieval Ages. It was published in like 1840 something. There was an account that people had documented that this one specific church in France where all the nuns just started meowing and they would sing their hymns in meows. They would communicate in meows. And it bothered people because like churches were a public space, people would come and go all the time, and it bothered people in the town that they were in, that the nuns would just meow to the people coming through and to each other. And they didn't stop doing it until nearby soldiers like threatened to like beat them, and then they just stopped meowing.
Okay, so my brain just went in all kinds of different directions. So, welcome to Kerrilynn's brain, everyone. So, in Egyptian times, cats were revered like gods. What if it was like these Egyptian gods channeling through, kind of going, hey, there's other things that we can, other types of religion we can all discuss. And
well, that opens up a question of like, where do the different religions go once they're gone? Like, where does that energy of belief go in like ancient Egypt once ancient Egypt collapses, right? They gotta go somewhere. Neil Gaiman wrote a whole book about it, so it's an interesting concept. But yeah, right. Maybe it is.
Share the name of the book for people who would be interested.
Yeah, it would be American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Now the book is fictional, but it is a incredible thought experiment, and I think it's a really great meditation on belief and faith, especially
Old Gods
faith.
and the New.
All Gods and New. It's a great book. But Neil Gaiman loves mythology. I just think I truly believe that Neil Gaiman believes in mythology because there's so much love in that book, and I don't think it's like a historical text the way that like some old books are. But it is a great idea, and I'm all for anything, any form of media, just like projecting a thought experiment out into the world.
And it's theory. It's just it's somebody taking a theory, having this inspiration, like meowing nuns, and then running on a theory, and then creating this that comes into pop culture, and 100%. Then we pick it up and put our own energy collectively into it, right?
100%.
Meowing nuns.
Meowing nuns. And then, like in the 15th century, same thing happened in Germany, where the nuns just started biting each other, and they couldn't stop biting each other and biting other people. There's the meowing nuns, like zombies.
Was it mad cow disease and bad beef?
Oh, maybe. Oh, do you remember mad cow disease?
Yes.
Do you remember that was the thing?
Well, let's not go there. What's cordyceps?
Yeah, like in The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Like maybe they had bad mushrooms in Germany in the 15th century.
Yes.
Yeah.
Foraging the wrong forest and gave themselves cordyceps.
Well, that's there's like a evolutionary theory that was proposed that because of psilocybin mushrooms, they like the apes at the time in the specific area in oh my god, I haven't thought about this in a hot minute, but it like triggered some form of evolution in a higher form of thought process that like led us to becoming modern day humans. It is fascinating. So maybe it is a cordyceps thing. But do you ever read the Hidden Life of Trees? Have you read that book?
No, but it sounds like it's something I would read. Something like I would be interested in.
Yeah, it would be something you'd be interested in because that book all goes into like the way that mushrooms communicate with each other through mass like root networks, and trees do the same thing too.
Well, that I knew about the tree
vibration. Mushrooms do it too, apparently.
I didn't know that about mushrooms.
Yeah, they have like electrical signals they can send through the mushrooms.
There was, I was thinking about something similar. What is it called? Oh, sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
That's okay.
Is it fingerprint of the gods?
What's that?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up because now that I'm down that rabbit hole. Yeah, it is.
Like a place or like a object?
No, it's a book. It's a book.
Oh, it's a book. Okay, hit me with it. I should have my pen. I'll remember.
I'm looking. Yeah, that's what it is. Fingerprints of the gods. I was on the right track there. I just needed to be a little more confident about, accessing that part of my perimenopausal brain. So, Fingerprint of the gods, and it's Graham Hancock. So
Okay,
I thought
Graham
that would,
Hancock.
I thought that would actually be somebody that you would be interested in reading. And he definitely pushes the envelope, like, especially when we're talking about Antarctica, which is something that
I can't wait. I'm excited to talk about Antarctica.
that you're going to bring up in a bit. And Atlantis, he's definitely pushed a lot of buttons with archaeologists and historians and the discoveries and theories that he has, pushing the envelope to what we're believing as the common story that we're being fed about our history, the things that he's discovering and and the new discoveries that are happening, and how he's kind of putting them all together is changing our dates and timings and places of.
Oh, I find that so fascinating.
Yeah.
That always wrinkles the rump of of the scientific community or the historic community. And I get why. I mean, a lot of people have like their whole reputation. If you propose a theory that you can confirm, you're like, hey, we've got it all wrong. All these dates are backwards. This didn't happen before X, Y, or Z. Then you've got people's entire reputations or their whole like foundation for why they're so famous. They kind of gets discarded. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe the more you care about that sort of thing, the more involved you are in that kind of community, the more upsetting it is. But I feel like that's the nature of science in general.
But it doesn't need to be, because if we're always
I don't think so either. Yeah, totally.
finding new things, it's okay to say, this is what my the knowledge that I had and where my belief system was and what I understood to be true based on scientific facts. And now these scientific facts are presenting other information. And so I'm going to evolve with it, is a much more mature approach than
it is the adult thing to do.
Digging your heels in and ignoring the possibility that there's another possibility.
100%. I completely agree.
Fingerprint of the gods. Fingerprints of the gods. So that's.
Thank you.
We're going to put that on your.
I'm going to put that on my mental reading list.
October reading list. We're both ferocious readers, so.
Yeah, I'm tearing through books these days.
And I totally got cut you off on your good mentions list. So was there another one on your? Was there more on your list, or can we start with?
I think we can jump in. I think those. Yeah, I got some other ones, like the Roman Empire still existing. That one's completely unfounded. But the idea that the ancient Roman Empire has been working behind the scenes to maintain its authority, hilarious. Love it. Space is fake. No, it's not. That's hilarious though. You can look up and you can just see it. You can see it from here. So that one's a really fun one, but I don't know, like.
And let's add a meowing cat ruler.
Meowing, yeah. Well, there must have been like a some sort of like head meowing nun. I don't know. But yeah, what do you want to jump into? I've got a list of like the meaty stuff.
Like somebody has a yawn and then it changes the air around, and then the next person, like, it gets contagious, like a yawn.
Yeah. That's interesting. That might actually be it. That same sort of like mental trick that your brain pulls on you when you see someone yawn, it makes you tired too.
Yeah.
When you're not really tired. I do it. It happens to me all the time. That might be it.
I don't know.
Some sort of meowing energy that people just picked up on.
Just a theory. Just a thought.
Mass hysteria is very interesting. I find it very interesting. The clowns thing, I think, is a form of mass hysteria to tie it all back together.
That was mass hysteria. But clowns are very scary for some people.
Very, very scary. I saw a woman, this is like 8 years ago, almost get run over by a clown.
Somebody got run over by a clown?
Almost. I was crossing an intersection, and the woman in front of me is walking, and then this car pulls up, taking a right really fast, and it almost hits her. It's inches away from me, and we both kind of look up, and the person driving is a clown. Woman dressed as a clown. And, yeah, it was so weird.
Odds.
It was wild. It happened right in front of the Market Fresh at that intersection in Guelph, Ontario.
In Guelph.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the woman
Yeah.
just like the clown lady like looked at both of us and then waved and then drove past because both of us were like frozen. Like that
Was
did
it
that
like near
happen?
Halloween or
Yeah, it was like July.
birthday party?
I guess they're on their way to a birthday party.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's funny. Okay.
Want to talk about Antarctica?
Yeah. What's the top story? What's the top one you want to share with me? The one that gets you most passionate. Is there one on your list that your clients have talked to you about? Do clients talk to you about paranormal conspiracies?
They totally do. Because every now and then I'll just bring something up, right? I'll talk about the eye of the
Conversation
Sahara.
starter?
Yeah, just breaking the ice. So just a simple icebreaker. There's like, how'd you get into hair? Where are you from? And then there's, what do you think of the pyramids in Antarctica? Like, of my
And
what I
how
feel like
many
talking
people
about
have said
today.
they didn't know about them?
Most people, however, I do have a couple where when I was like, you know about the pyramids in Antarctica? And they're like, oh, you mean the same place that the caverns? What was it called? What was it called? It was in my notes. The Polynia. I didn't know that. I learned that one today. Polynia, the giant, massive hole in Antarctica that leads to like underground caverns that have not been explored. I think they're full of water, but you don't know how far that water goes. But yeah, I've had a couple people that just like fired right back at me
That's
with
fun,
like things,
right?
but specifically about Antarctica because I think there's something about the Arctic that is so captivating and so alluring. So the ones that I know, like about like Bigfoot being a interdimensional time traveler, which just makes me really happy when I think about that. That most people don't or haven't heard about that one, but the Antarctic one, I was surprised by like how many people knew one or two things about it.
So tell me what you know about it.
Okay, so there's a lot of different things. There's where do you even start? I'll just go down the list. There's a pyramid shaped structure in Antarctica that you can see on Google Maps, and it's like listed as a natural formation. It's rock. It was discovered by Robert Scott on the RRS Discovery during the 1910 expedition into Antarctica. That's who like originally discovered it. It was just this pyramid shape coming out from a snowbank. It was massive. It's a massive structure. Um, Apparently naturally formed, but very, very exact in its shape. Everyone died on the way back. Their bodies were discovered way later from a separate expedition that went in to go like retrieve them. So that one's always fascinating, and it's really fun because you can find it on Google now. I think it was blurred for a while, and there's a lot of people that were like asking why it's blurred. Then it got unblurred. No, actually, I think there's just surveillance photos, but it's still blurred on Google Maps. But you can, it's a location pinged on Google. The comments on it are hilarious. They're all like, "Went there. The aliens were amazing. They were so nice. They even dropped me off." Like, it's really fun. It's a lot of fun.
So is there theories as to what it is? Because I've understood that at one point that was actually like lush and green, and that there was some
I didn't know that. I didn't know that about it.
Tech I don't know the right
Tectonic?
words. Shifts
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
plates
So when
shifted
the
in.
Earth was in Pangea, right? When it was just one solid continent back in the beginning of time.
Yes. So it shifted like an orange peel in the center. The center of the orange stood still, like the center of the orange stayed, but the I don't know why I'm having so much trouble talking tonight, but the peel, like it shifted and moved around it, like when a mandarin's loose inside inside that peel, so that it shifted and changed, that axis. So it used to be this lush place. So was it a holy temple that was actually built in a lush place?
Well, apparently there are caverns. There's like a massive space underneath that pyramid in particular. So some people have called it like a cathedral.
Right.
which might just be sensationalism, but I think that's where a conspiracy begins, when you have a strange shape somewhere you're not allowed to go to because something called the Antarctica Treaty, which forbids people from just walking into Antarctica, based on a premise of the weird thing. Here's what I looked up about the Antarctica Treaty. It is to protect Antarctica. It is to promote peace, and it is to unobstruct research. Those are like the three main key points for the Antarctica Treaty. So when you have research, it's like there's a massive cavern underneath this giant pyramid in Antarctica, and you can't go there because you'll disrupt the peace and you'll obstruct research. Like, how do you not start wanting to draw massive conclusions into like the Twilight Zone?
Wow.
How do you not?
It sounds like they're plopping you right into the middle of Aliens versus Predator movie.
Yeah, it does. That's exactly it. It is a ritual site where an alien species comes down and conducts a hunting ceremony to ascend into adulthood.
Manhood.
Yeah,
Yes.
it makes sense. That tracks. It's a cool movie. I should get out of it.
It is such a fun movie. So I heard someone say that part of that, there is that law, global law about no taking minerals, no digging, any of that. And should anybody go against that treaty, like go against it, that it would be World War III, because they are supposed to be protecting it. So what are they protecting?
Exactly. That's a crazy point that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
It really goes. I mean, this just shows you like how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah.
Morpheus was right. It goes pretty deep.
Well, but that's what makes it fun, is the curiosity and somebody else's perspective on it. And not that I hang on to it pretty tightly. I'm kind of like you. I will talk about those conspiracies because it's bringing a little bit of lightness to my day.
Yeah.
Even when we get rolling, and I share the one that I have about the White House, like I can help but bring movies into it, like, because I just go, somebody heard a whiff of, they got a whiff of that, smelled a whiff of that, and they rolled it into this bigger story of their own and gave us this awesomeness.
Yeah, 100%.
With their imagination.
Here's this gift of crazy that I'm going to give the world.
Yeah.
I thought it was so crazy.
They certainly inspire stories, right? And inspire conversation.
It does, and I think that's great. I just love it. I love it so much. But the other thing I have. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's not it's not triggering for me. Some conspiracies can really trigger people where they are hyper focused and it's upsetting, where it's triggering places for them, for sure. I think for you and I in particular, we approach it with a sense of wonder and curiosity, and try to keep it light at the same time, right?
Absolutely. I love them because they just flip the world in a more interesting way, and I think those are the ones that I really not like latch on to. I don't think that's the right word. That I when I think about it, I smile about it. Except for one of them. I mean, like, I do have some that are like, that's spooky, that's weird, that's so freaky.
Share
and like,
that
how
one.
can you not?
Share with me.
There's one more thing that's worth looking into about Antarctica, real quick, before
we got time.
We do have time. Looking into who Admiral Byrd is really interesting. There's a lot of theories and conspiracies that revolve around him. Have you heard of Admiral
Byrd with a Y or Byrd with an I?
It's Byrd with a Y. Good question. He was a admiral in the U.S. Army who, after World War II, did a ton of expeditions into Antarctica. There's specifically one, Operation High Jump, that there's a lot of like conspiracy theories that are like tied to it. Right. Allegedly, there's a ton of photographs and recordings, like audio tapes recorded, as well as some video that have all been like expunged from and redacted by the U.S. government. where he was. It was something like he was revealing in his diaries and these tapes that he had found the entrance into the hollow earth through a channel in Antarctica. But when he got back and was talking to people about it, like his superiors, they like hushed a lot, gave him a Medal of Honor, and then told him not to talk about it again.
Did they put him in a padded room for the rest of his life?
He did get no, they didn't. He was released and he put out a book. There's a ton of like books about Hollow Earth that are like tied to Admiral Byrd. It's super weird and interesting. It's really hard to find. Like it takes a
obscure.
Great deal. It's pretty obscure. That's like reaching into the weird stuff for sure. But it's worth looking into. He's got a lot of links to like Antarctica and the mysteries over there. There was a quote that he had in a diary entry saying like, we're not really prepared for, or our understanding is so limited in what we know about Antarctica. So I find that very, very fascinating. Anytime the government says, not allowed to talk about it, here's a medal, shut up. It's like, that was interesting. Why'd you do that? Kind of like when they blurred the pyramid. It's like, why'd you do that? You didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mass hysteria. We'll go back to that. Is it preventing mass hysteria because they don't know how people will handle it?
Probably. I mean, that's why that whole theory with like theory of aliens, right? It's like, do we let people know that aliens are real, or do we keep it a secret? Because the existence of extraterrestrial secrets out now, for sure. Which is so interesting because like it comes out and it always like the secret about aliens comes out and it just lands super flat and quietly, which is always so interesting that the reaction to aliens is like, yeah, that makes sense. And I guess maybe that is it. There's the Fermi's paradox that space is so vast, life must exist, but the absence of evidence is in direct contradiction to the obvious possibility that there should be life out there. And then it kind of like those two things bounce off of each other.
And again, it's sort of in pop culture, whether it is scary or lighthearted, it's permeated through pop culture in a way that maybe has desensitized people or warmed them up to the fact that there is something more, right?
It's a great way to put that. Yeah. If you're surrounded by the conversation that aliens are real or the supernatural exists, it opens up a valve in your brain that is so accepting of it when you do see it.
Well, I think that it's still when you feel safe in your environment and you've created this level of safety, that that feeling of not having control can toss you upside down. That's a whole other rabbit hole for us.
That is a whole other rabbit hole. It is. You want to do one of yours?
Yeah. So I think I'm going to do the White House.
Hit me with it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know much about it. I've heard it, but only by like definition.
I still wrote notes down because I just wanted to make sure that I was still on that my thoughts didn't go sideways in fogginess. So it was interesting. And I hadn't even thought about it, even though it had been on my radar. And so we had this initial discussion, let's do paranormal conspiracies. And I have been getting ready. Lots of people know my fascination with Ouija boards, and that I have talked with people that are crossed over, have since I was a little kid, do that as a career now. I talk about the Fox sisters quite a bit, who are Maggie Fox.
Who are they?
Maggie Fox and Catherine Fox. So Maggie Fox was age 14. Catherine was 11. They lived in this like farming cabin in New York, and they are the ones that really created the spiritualist movement. In I believe it was 1848, March 1848, when they said that they were communicating with an older gentleman spirit through raps and knocks in response to questions that they were asking. And it just blew up for them from there. And I talk about this quite a bit, because I talk about the mediums of that time period, because it gave women in marginalized communities a voice. It gave them an income when they weren't really allowed to have a voice. They didn't have any say in their marriages or education. Lower class, people, their employment was dictated by the middle class and the upper classes, and a lot of those mediums were in those lower classes, making an income for themselves where it wasn't prostitution. So, the having to sort of up the ante so that they were different from the medium that was down the street. And you did get those charlatans, and there is some level of truth for some of them, I'm sure, and then the rest of them making it a good storytelling, a good event for people. But where the Fox sisters come into play in this story attached to is their lower energies or demonic energies in the White House. And it all comes back to the Fox sisters. So to start with, I found I didn't actually know that people talk about the whole city of Washington being built with Masonic symbols, the whole, like the way the roads are laid out. And
that's weird, right?
Right. So there's
that's pretty weird.
Symbolism and numerology and all of these sorts of things, and that sort of played in a factor. So the White House was actually built on a swamp. It started in 1792, was completed in 1800. So the first president that moved in was John Adams and his wife Abigail. They were the first residents of the White House. And the White House has had different renovations and rebuilds in 1817, 1902, and 1952. And the one in 1952 is an interesting one that we're going to get to in a bit. So Franklin Pierce, I believe he was their 14th president. And I just want to say, as a Canadian, to remember that is pretty good.
That is pretty good.
If I did it wrong, though, tell me. So I think that's right. So Franklin Pierce was president from 1853 to 1857. And his wife, Jane, was not a drinker, not into politics. She was a reverend's daughter. She disliked her husband being in politics, didn't want him in politics at all.
How did she end up marrying
I don't know.
A president? Or I guess they got married and then he became president.
He just had that bad boy, sexy ooziness to him, and she was a little wilder behind the door than what everybody knows. So I'm really sorry if that was bad. I'm really sorry if that was bad. But I mean, opposites attracted for whatever reason. And you know what? I'm sure there would have been a level of education that she could keep up with an intelligent conversation. And maybe that is what attracted him to her too, right? And being able to have these sort of conversations, even though she didn't enjoy the career that he had. But definitely she was pious. And they had a baby that died 4 days after it was born. They had a son die when he was 4. So they had one kiddo left that she devoted obsessively over. Benny. His name was Benny. So she really focused on Benny. And when he was when it was time for his inauguration, they were on a train trip. I'm not sure if he was in the southern states moving up to, like, going up to the northern states on this train, and the carriage that they were on unhooks from the rest of the train, and it rolls down the ravine, and he's only able to reach his wife and not his son, and his son tragically dies. So they have no children, and she really blamed his job, politics, his career, on the death of their son. And so she was already it said that she was a melancholy person. So clearly somebody that had bouts of depression, and now she's got grief on top of that. So they actually, the press gave her this horrible,
Press.
right,
The evil press.
right, moniker, the Phantom of the White House, because she just stayed in a room and isolated herself.
Which
So,
is a pretty cool title.
yeah.
For a bad reason, but the title's cool. The Phantom of the Opera is a great name.
Yes. But this is where I kind of got hooked into the story, because Jane Pierce starts um, getting involved with the spiritualist community by having Maggie Fox, because she had written to her, heard about her, and now Maggie Fox and her sister have been, doing public events, 4 or 5 years at that point. So they were known internationally for being these mediums, and she invited Maggie Fox repeatedly to the White House to do these seances. So, did they open a door that they didn't know what they were opening? Did they not close that door properly? Did something, you know, those lower energies are attracted to, uh, they're going to get you when you're vulnerable. So the president's at this place where, the country is turning on itself. Slavery is still happening. The South is wanting the country to stay the way that it is. The North is wanting
Oh, this is
changes.
pre-Civil
Yes,
War. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yes.
It would be. Yeah, it would be.
So it's right before. So he had gone back on his word regarding the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which ended up saying like the states could figure it out for themselves, which fractured the country even more.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that energy is building, and she's depressed, and then all of a sudden she's saying that she's dreaming of Benny is showing up in her room. Servants are going by the room and they can hear her talking and giggling and playing with a child in this room. So
Oh, spooky.
was it a child? Was it a demon? How is it? Is it something that's presenting, right? So it's said that in 1853, like a preacher had wrote in, a Seventh-day Adventist preacher wrote a book, and in the book he wrote and questions if the spirit in the White House was a demon that was influencing the president and his wife. So like it was well known that there was seances and some kind of spirit activity that was actually happening in the house. I mean, that house would have stress and all kinds of things.
Well, it's a building that
It's a
is nothing
heightened.
but like heightened, energetic
Exactly.
place. Absolutely.
Exactly. So
Absolutely.
that environment
And
in
none of it's good.
itself.
When you're running a country, none of that is going to be easy work.
No, as well, especially at that time, right? In that time. And so what
With
he did
tumultuous.
laid the groundwork that it just kind of pushed the country right into civil war. They called it Bleeding Kansas. It was his greatest failure as a president.
So does the theory come from the preacher's book that he put out about the spirit in the White House?
So no, it goes even deeper, because Benny was aged 11 at the time that he died. So um, Franklin Pierce is out. Abraham Lincoln is in, and Abraham Lincoln is, he's the one that changes everything. He's the one that we all remember. He's the one that creates the Emancipation Act. So with Abraham Lincoln, who was like he was a corporate lawyer who was self-educated. So, and a beautiful, he wrote beautiful speeches. Orator, or is that the right
Orator. Yeah. Yeah,
orator?
it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
yeah. But he went in right when they were on that brink of civil war, which they did go right into, and they had 4 children. Of their 4 children, it was well known that their favorite was Willie. So their son Willie was their favorite kiddo. And so in the winter,
No, I don't know American political history revolving their children, but I don't think this is going anywhere good.
no, it's not. Did you watch?
No, I
Okay,
didn't. I'm just hearing this for the first time.
yeah. So okay, so in 1862, really at that time, his goal was to preserve the Union, not necessarily free the slaves, and that changes because something happened that changed things. But his son Willie got sick during the winter, and he ends up dying of typhoid fever. And so it's repeat of the Pierce story where Mary Todd Lincoln goes into depression. She was already a little bit interested in the spiritualist movement. And then in dealing with her grief, she decides to do the same thing. And she brings a medium into the White House to start having these seances in order to connect with Willie. And it just gets there's just so much, Taylor. There's so much to it. So in January of 1863, he writes the Emancipation Act was written.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he, gave freedom. All men should be free, right? So all
Yep.
men should be free, and that's, yeah. I think that was like the third year of the Civil War. I'm not sure about those dates, but I apologize to all Americans for not knowing that part, but I think that it is. But he, who is the name? Oh, Colchester. That just sounds like
it does. No, I know what you mean. It hits the ear in a really interesting way.
Yes, Charles Colchester was one of the 5 mediums that she had brought, and she had him come more consistently. The president asked a friend named Mel Brooks to investigate him.
Mel Brooks?
I know. So 1865, we kind of move forward a little bit. There was somebody that had in the meantime was also doing an investigation on the spirits in the White House. That guy made his I think that he wrote his report, but weirdly the dude that was investigating the spirits in the White House and what was going on, because it was reported there was a little boy that was being seen by staff, and the only spirit
Benny?
that had was Benny. In the 200 years, the only little boy that had died on the grounds was Benny. And so he was investigating that, and that guy died on the Titanic.
Oh, that's weird.
Died on the Titanic.
That's weird. Did you know there's a whole real quick tangent? There's a whole conspiracy theory that the Titanic is not the Titanic, but it is the Olympus. Yes, it's a sister ship, and they were swapped out last second to maybe claim insurance that they sink the Titanic, but it's not the Titanic. You know what I mean? We still have that one, but we sunk the sister ship. And the sister ship was faults with it because it was under maintenance, but they need to send it out to the ocean real quick just to get this tour over with so that they can sink it. Yeah. Anyway, weird. So he died on the fake Titanic.
So he died. So then Abraham Lincoln was having these he had woke up one night. It said that he woke up one night. He was having a fitful sleep, bad dream, and he woke up hearing sobbing. And he, checked room for room throughout the White House, trying to find the source of the sobbing, and he couldn't find it. And so was it a premonition for what was about to happen? Because on April 15th in 1865,
oh God, it's happening again.
John Wilkes Booth assassinates him at the theater, right?
I just learned John Wilkes Booth's last words.
So I don't know his last words. You can tell me.
These hands useless were his last words, apparently.
These hands.
I don't know. I learned that today, so it's interesting that it's coming up now. Yeah.
So, what makes that even more interesting is that medium Charles Colchester and John Wilkes Booth were both spiritualists. John Wilkes Booth was also said to be a spiritualist, and they were seen at a hotel drinking together a few days before he assassinated the president. So
Oh wait, what? Whoa, that's weird.
So was the medium part of that conspiracy? Was the spiritual church part of it? Was it just a random, hey, two dudes hanging out to have a drink, like bros, or was there more to it, right? But then you just
weird.
You go fast forward, right, to Jackie Onassis with JFK and him being shot, and when Nancy Reagan, which is President Reagan's wife, she was so into astrology that after his assassination attempt, she like really dug her heels into astrology about whether it was a good day for him to leave the house or not a good day to leave the house, and astrology played a part in that. And President Truman in the 50s, he wrote about the ghost. He mentioned about the ghost. Staff were seeing ghosts, and at the time, like, and he dropped the atomic bomb. Like, then there's 9/11. Like, there's all of these things that have occurred. And is there a demon influencing, which would be a national security issue, influencing these presidents, and during big things all happened, right? So Truman, at the time when he was there, so the White House needed to be totally gutted and renovated because it was rotting wood. A piano fell through the second story floor, and
that's not good. You don't want that.
Not good. So he hired a photographer to take pictures of the renovations as they were happening. And you fast forward to the year 2008, and someone is looking at this going, there's a bulldozer and a construction site, and there's three dudes over here on the left, like conversing, in the man stance with their legs apart and their hands on their hips. But who's that?
It is a classic stance. It
totally is a classic stance. So it's a power stance.
It is. It's I don't really know what to do right now.
Can have them too.
I need to maintain authority in this situation. It's this
definitely one. All peoples can have that. All peoples can have that stance. Just in that picture, it was just men at that time. So to the right-hand side, there is a transparent figure of somebody standing there. And it has been, evaluated by so many different filmmakers and people, and they cannot debunk what that is. They caught this spirit using like just a regular camera doing this thing without realizing they caught this first full body apparition. It's just right there. And the weird part is this figure that does look like a male figure is standing beneath President Abraham Lincoln's bedroom window.
Oh, weird.
Right.
Weird.
Super weird. It's all weird.
All of it sounds like the White House is just a vortex for like really bizarre paranormal activity.
That's where somebody suggested the stone tape theory that it.
Oh yeah, that's it. I was just thinking that. Yeah. That like there has to be something in the walls of that place that just draws everything in.
So I took a group of people that I was teaching intuitive development with to a place called the Annandale House, and same thing, like touch the floors and touch the baseboards. We were allowed to do those things, and it's totally just for me in particular, it was like a wave of like a movie just rolling through my head, boom, 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 of every room. And a room that was set up nice, I was tasting blood in my mouth, so it was
weird.
It was used like a sick room, right? It had been used like a sick room. So for sure, the White House has seen so many things, like horse and buggy letters to the internet. Like it's
a lot will happen in that time period.
Yeah.
There's a concept I've heard before of like how buildings, it's more like a metaphor. It's kind of esoteric, but like a building itself is like a living thing. And that places themselves are like living things that breathe and they think and they feel, which sounds kooky when you start talking about that loud. But does make sense if you tie it back to the stone tape theory of like places do pick up on the things that happen in them. You can feel it right away. Or it evokes an emotion, or it evokes a feeling inside of you that like something happened here.
So isn't that part of the cultures that leave their shoes on the outside of the door because you've been walking around out in the world and picking up energy that you may not want in your home? So you leave your shoes on the outside of the door so you don't bring that energy in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I did a whole talk for Historical Society about the soul of the bank barn, because the bank barns are pretty much non-existent now. You see the ghosts in the shell of like these foundations, you know, peppered throughout these fields. And so I guess I was doing all of these farm reads, like going out to properties and tapping into the spirits that were attached to the land and doing these agricultural farm reads about these properties. And I did a talk about the soul of the barn, and but I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about the movie Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter. When I was reading this, I'm like, yes, let's just add a whole other conspiracy to this. Whoever, kind of picked up on something and let their imagination soar, I'm grateful for it, because that was it was.
You love that movie. You've been talking about that movie for years and years and years.
I read the book twice and then watched the movie I don't know how many times, because the whole idea of it, because they do talk about that paranormal side to it, and how they actually, one was with silver bullets.
The other one is you have to cut off their head. What better way to do that than with an axe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The talking about leaving your shoes outside made me think of something. Did you know that in the Himalayas they build their houses with doors that only go kind of short, like up to your chest? You have to like duck in underneath them when you went to the hut. Local legends, they do that. Local legends say the reason why they do that is because there are zombies in the Himalayas that guard the entrance to Shangri-La, right? And so they roam Tibet in the Himalayan mountains, right? Looking for people that are on their way to try to find Shangri-La and kill them. Sometimes they'll just like wander to town and take people. But this is great. Because it's so cold, they're frozen, so they can't bend, right? So they just walk into the door that's too short for them, and it turns them away.
So do they stop? Now I've got questions. So do they stop? Do they stop people who are on their way to try to find Shangri-La because what was the Egyptian god that would measure to see if you
my gosh,
your good deeds and your bad deeds? So
yeah, they would weigh your bad deeds on a scale against that of on a feather.
And if it tipped, then away you go the wrong way.
Like somewhere in the back of the head, not the front of the head. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So are the zombies those? Are they sort of those gatekeepers, that are trying to decide if you're worthy of getting past them or not?
No, fascinating. But when you're talking about leaving the shoes outside, my Chihuahua brain immediately ran to the half doors of the Himalayas.
My Chihuahua brain honors your Chihuahua brain.
Thank you. Thank you. The idea that the White House is haunted as heck is, I mean, of course it would be. Of course,
lots of people in positions of notoriety and authority have all commented on seeing various different, right, even to, I think it's Abigail Adams, John Adams. I'm really sorry, I don't know all the presidents from the United States, but so lots of people, even Winston Churchill commented that there was ghosts in the White House.
And he's a pretty reputable guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a pretty reputable guy. You want to segue into more ghost kids and trains?
Yeah, we can totally do that.
I need to
I've just
open another
been
window though. I'm gonna open my blinds up real fast because I feel like I'm starting to sink into the dark here.
So
There we go.
if you're just tuning in with us, you are listening to Spirit Switchboard. We are broadcasting from the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans. And today on the show, I actually have my son Taylor, and we've kind of been all over the place. We started off with Paranormal Conspiracies. We're kind of sticking to it, but we're kind of all over the place with
We touched on ghosts for a while.
yeah, just paranormal conspiracies and stories that get picked up, and like the telephone game, it just gets bigger and bigger depending on where the story lands, right? And who adds what to the story until it becomes so big it's got its own momentum.
I was thinking about at the very beginning of what you were just talking about with the White House being haunted, and the wife. What was her name? The wife, Miss Adams. What was her name? The mom.
So the very first
Yeah, where she was talking to the
mom,
Fox sisters. Yeah, because I was thinking about the Fox sisters.
Jane
So
Pierce.
I'm curious. So when she was bringing the Fox sisters, because they were really big,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about. I have to go. I have to go all the way back now, trying to remember a thought I had, but I didn't want to break your role.
Because she
Where it's
would
like, so
be
they
only
really
17 or 18 at the time. She'd be no
it's so
5,
young.
early 20s. She would have been in her
It's so
early
young.
20s when she was going to.
So the Fox sisters, what they did, they really normalized the spiritual movement. Because pre them, it's all witches and burning witches, and anything related to like, yo, you can just talk to the dead, is like, no, you can't. You're
Well,
possessed by demons.
so
So
but it
is that
shifted. It
yeah,
shifted
that's
because
the shift, right?
yeah, and it shifted because it was a time of high mortality rate. There
Yeah.
were 620,000 people died during the Civil War. 620,000 people died during the war. So there was so much grief, so much sadness, so much loss and hurt. And that's not including all of those people that died during slavery either, right? So prior to that, so you have
Millions.
all of these people wanting to connect with their loved ones to know that they're safe, that they that are they whole, was there a place for them to go to, are they stuck, are they in heaven, are they with people, other loved ones that are crossed over, do they
Yeah.
need something, like there was just this
Especially because like the
heavy
consensus
sense
at the
of
time
loss, yes, that they
was the feeling was that like this was so pointless. This can't have meant
well
anything. Like looking at it.
right.
So we're
And that high child mortality rate, like just even Jane Pierce losing, um, she lost all 3 of her children, but
yeah.
two of them quite young. And then the illnesses, it was just, yeah, with Willie dying from typhoid, the illnesses that were happened back then with children, and that high child mortality rate. So all of these grieving people wanting to connect to the other side. So I think that um, if it started off as a real thing for them, and then it turned into giving people what they wanted or needed, and it really just kind of blew, like it really was a whole crazy movement, especially if you want to we can do a whole episode one like further down the road if you wanted, with um a medium named Mina Crandon, who was actually born in Ontario, and she married a
Shout out to
doctor.
Ontario.
Yeah, married a doctor from Boston, and who got connected with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who plays a very big part in the spiritualist movement. And
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at
huge,
all.
oh,
Oh, I didn't know that.
huge part. And he was part of the Scientific Americana committee that put out challenge to any of the mediums to prove that they were actually a medium. So they had to go through all of these tests, and they included Houdini on part of in that committee in trying to debunk these mediums. And Mina Crandon and Houdini had a very public battle between the two of them, and it really does turn into this
I did know about that. Yeah.
it turns into this very raunchy, sort of thing. So it's that whole movement was crazy. There was seances in parlors in their homes, and then there was seances in the theaters where they paid money, and it was definitely, and the psychomantium closets and yeah, all kinds of stuff
That's a
just happened.
phrase.
Yeah.
That's a phrase. I
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. We kind of went sideways.
That's okay. You want to talk about Luna Park?
I know nothing actually about Luna Park. So when you said Luna Park was on your list of paranormal conspiracies, I didn't even look it up because I wanted you to educate me.
This one's really interesting. I'm bad with dates. I forgot to write down the year that this happened. If you could fact check the year for me, while we're at it, I forgot to write this down. Names, people, places, things, they're in there. Numbers, don't ask me to close the shop and count the cash at night. I'm never going to get it right. The Luna Park train fire demon is a conspiracy that like hit my ear when I heard it, and it just sticks with me in a way. It's definitely more on like the creepy side, but I found it very interesting.
I've got it, June 9th, 1979.
It was the 70s, but I didn't want to. I was confident that it was the 70s. Yeah, but I didn't want to deploy it. I didn't trust myself. So June 9th, 1978.
That's what they're saying.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you fact checking that date for me. At around 10 o'clock at night, a train fire erupts on an amusement park ride in Australia at Luna Park. The ride was called the Ghost Train, and it just like rolled around the park due to faulty sprinkler system and low staff and other like small little like conditions like that. The train burns down with 7 people inside of it, including a father and 2 of his children that were in it as well.
So the train was a ride at the park?
Yeah, the train was a ride at the park. It was just like a little ride, like Riverside Park. They have a little tiny train that goes around,
right?
Something like that, but more like an amusement park. You can just ride the thing called the Ghost Train. It's really tragic. No one really knows why it burned down. There was suspected arson because the fire erupted like inside the train, but because the system for the sprinklers wasn't installed properly, it didn't get enough coverage and low water pressure. So the coroner concluded that someone burned it down, but it wasn't staff. There was negligence on the staff's part for like safety and security for things like that, but no one actually like burned it down. Years later, the mother of the 2 children that were on that train her name was, read my notes, it is Jenny Godson. Is like going through photographs and just trying to like learn more about it. I can assume that, when something like that happens and you lose people, you attach yourself to an event like that quite deeply. And she starts going through photographs of the day, and she finds a photograph that somebody took of her son standing next to a masked, like a bull masked figure. This man in this like really wild suit. You can look it up on Google if you look up the Luna Park train fire demon. It is spooky though. I'm gonna give a little bit of a warning. I've just spun that phone around when I Googled it to my clients, and no one's liked it. No, it's kind of bad reaction every single time. But there's a man in a like bull mask and like this loincloth and this cloak thing over his shoulders next to her son. No one knows who that guy is. No one knows why he was there. He appeared before the fire erupted, and he left after the fire from like her poking around of what witnesses were saying about it. And a conspiracy. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Did her son die?
Her son did die. Her son died on the train.
Her son was on the train. So was he with another family member or just on the train by himself?
He was there with his brother. The son was there with his brother and the father and the husband of the woman doing the investigation.
So did the three of them die?
Yeah.
She lost all three family members.
Yeah, in the fire on the train. And then there was like a series of other people that died on the train as well.
Okay. So her last photo of her son is not this, hey, I'm happy I'm at the park. It's, hey, I'm with the whatever.
You're at the computer. Look it up real quick. If you can type it in. Look up the photo so you can see the photo. The Luna Park train fire demon. I'll wait for you to see it. I'm waiting for the reaction. You'll know when you see it. Look at the images.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then when you see it in black and white, it's even scarier.
It's incredibly eerie. But that is the last photograph of Jenny Godson's son, and it's next to this unidentified weird man. Now, this is where things get kind of weird, because there's two different directions that the story goes. One direction is in 2007, a woman named Anne Buckingham went to like publications saying that it was her uncle that started the fire. His name was Abe Safran. He was a hotel manager, and that he was the one who burned down the train because he wanted the lease for Luna Park, because he was like known as a underground criminal guy. But then later, out of nowhere, completely retracted all of her statements and backed down on it. So that's one angle that story goes, and that's like a trying to figure out what the heck, like criminally happened, right? The other, where it shifts, the pendulum swings back into the paranormal, is people have made connections between the bull masked figure and the demon from Christian mythology, Moloch, which was a bull-headed demon that people would ritualistically sacrifice children to in burning rituals to appease him. So the theory, right, is that the whoever that person was burned down the train as a satanic ritual sacrifice to Moloch. And that's when it becomes like a spooky, supernatural, unsolved mystery. And it's still unsolved. It was like opened up in 2007 when that woman came to the press about it, but then nothing came out of it. And then they closed the case again. It remains like a really weird moment of like, no one knows what the heck is about that.
Well, there was a huge period of time where there was Satanist hysteria.
Oh, yeah. Like 60s, 70s, then a little bit into the 80s, the satanic panic.
Yeah. And in that time frame also when the Ouija board hysteria started there too.
Yeah.
In that time period. But definitely that hysteria with Satan.
That's and that's it. That's where that story ends.
Were there other fires? Like
or
other stories that connected to that one as well too, or that there's just this one
that was it. It was just a weird
like he shows up like Mothman.
Right, that would be freaky.
Before the disaster.
If he showed up, like whoever that was or whoever it was showed up at like burning, like buildings burning down and then just vanished, that would be really freaky. I don't like to think of that at all. But yeah, that's it. That's so weird, right? Because it's just like there's an event and then one photo.
I just keep thinking about it as from a mom's perspective that's the last photo you have of your kid with this
thing. It's freaky. It's super freaky. Yeah. So not all the ones that I like, and all my favorite conspiracy theories are
that
awesome.
One's sad, but
that one it is sad and really freaky. It's super weird.
So no one has like deep dived into more of those stories of anybody doing ritualistic practices for that.
Oh, there probably are.
They can link it all together.
Yeah,
I don't know. I would see those aren't ones that I can I think that those ones are disturbing. So I guess,
They are
you know,
disturbing.
in my privilege and not wanting to look that way, then I
There's
don't.
a whole series and a book as well that came out about how like Son of Sam killings were linked to like satanic rituals and things
So
like that.
I've read a lot about that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that stuff definitely happens.
But I'm yeah, I'm all for a
Like
good conspiracy, but if there's animals and children that get hurt, I'm like, "Eh."
it's freaky. It's super freaky.
Yeah.
But that one has always captured my attention. I think because it has like such direct what would be the right word for it? Like it affected people in a really specific way that just went cold, but it's such a supernatural,
Did any
bizarre
did
connection
anybody
to it.
else remember seeing that
From
person?
from the reading that I did, no, there was just a photograph.
Wow.
Weird, right? Super weird.
So who took the picture?
I have no idea. I don't think anyone knows. It wasn't the bomb.
That's what I was gonna say. How did the mom get the picture of her kid if she didn't
I
take
don't
the
know either.
picture?
That's weird too. I don't know how the mom got the photo either.
I have questions.
Super.
If
I
anybody's
have
listening
questions too.
and you have more information,
On the Luna Park train fire.
Luna Park train fire, Luna
Super
Park
weird.
demon
Yeah,
is what I Google searched.
super weird.
I didn't
That
know
one
that.
gets to me. It
Yeah,
gets to me.
that one does.
That one gets to me. Yeah. How do you feel about the hollow Earth? Do you think the Earth is hollow? You want to talk about Agartha? You want to shift gears real fast?
Yeah, we can shift gears.
I gotta turn the light on again. 1 second. Still on the mic though. Let's talk about Agartha.
I don't know anything about it. You'd have to
So
tell me.
Agartha is the state that exists under the earth. There is a hollow, allegedly a hollow cavern under the earth surface that is a unknown lost continent that still exists. And
Where
I
all
honestly
the
don't know, like,
Transformers live?
I guess so. I honestly don't know like where Hollow Earth started. I don't know if it's adjacent to like Flat Earth or if it's like um its own thing. I don't know if it's where Tolkien drew inspiration for Middle Earth.
Hmm.
Um if it's like an old theory, old mythology thing that's always existed. Um but I do know that there is a theory that in places like Antarctica, right? Back to that, where there are massive underground caverns and cave networks that connect somewhere, somehow, into a hollow continent. Um, that is a very fun thought to me. And there's theories that like the giants exist down there. There's a wild theory that I heard about how the Neanderthals escaped devastation and extinction by hiding out underneath the surface in the hollow earth, where they've maintained their species and have been affecting the world's government through some uh, through like subterfuge, and it's called the Paleolithic deep state theory, which is
I know nothing about it, but I'm interested. I'm curious to know more.
it's me too, actually. That one's weird because it feels like it's so vast that it's like hard to like get a read on like what it is. Um, but it is that ties more into like the theories that I find really fun. Not spooky train demons. Those are interesting too in their own like unsolved mystery kind of spooky way or like
Right.
haunting kind of way. But the kind that like let me look at the earth and wonder if there's something down there
And do
looking
they
up.
not have, I mean, we have internet sleuths, right? But more information is accessible because everything is captured now. Cell
Yeah.
phones, ring
Oh
cameras,
yeah.
everything is captured now. So I mean our trail is easy to follow. And
Yes.
in that 70s it was definitely not the same. So
Yeah.
it would be hard even if you were one of those internet sleuths now to go back and dig up some of that potential evidence to figure out who that person was.
Oh, with the train fire. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Who had the bull mask on?
Maybe he ran down into the hollow earth. Maybe he came up, lit a fire, then escaped back down. I don't know. He seems tall in the photo. He might be a giant.
Well, and buff.
And buff. Giants are probably buff. You have to be pretty big if you're going to be that big walking around. It's a lot. It's a lot. To move a big body, it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah.
You ripped.
I don't know.
I don't know, Mom.
I don't know about the hollow earth either. How I feel about hollow earth.
How do you feel about right?
So
that one, like I just it tickles my brain in a way that I find really fun.
And I need to maybe not overthink it, because if I'm open to the idea that there's alternate dimensions and alternate realities, why can't there be a hollow earth?
Totally.
Why can't there be?
And I think that's what I think about with any kind of theory, where it's like the second it turns into like a theory, or something that seems slightly supernatural.
Right.
It's like you where's that line between like, am I romanticizing an idea, or am I creating it in my mind? Am I creating it out of imagination? Or is there like a truth here? And I think my favorite ones, the ones that like leave me with something to think about, are the ones that have an element of truth in them. Yeah. Like if you look up a thing called the Eye of the Sahara, which is
okay, so I didn't know anything about that.
Oh yeah, the weird it's in the Sahara Desert, right? Like 500 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean, and it's this strange like formation of the Earth of like four or five like separate rings, massive, and the outermost rings are like 40 kilometers long. Like it's massive. You can see it from space when you look at Google images of it.
Okay.
There's been like tools from various different areas. I wrote it down. What was the pre-Acheulean and the Neolithic eras? There was various stone tools of like different origins that like people have like dug up around there. The theory about it, and that's what it is. You can totally go there. You have to get like a sponsor from the area to like bring you there, which is interesting too. It's very protected. Where it turns into like the theory light bulb like goes off,
right,
is that it is very similar in its shape as the description of Atlantis that Plato wrote about. Plato wrote that Atlantis, when did he see it? I don't know. I think he saw it, but it was like a series of islands with a civilization built on each of the islands in like a circular shape that like converged into the middle with moats between them, in a long trench through the middle, or a long canal that pierced all these different islands. And when you look at the Eye of the Sahara, you see these rings and these shallow trenches where there could be water, in a big like thing through the middle where there would be a canal that ran from the ocean into this what's called the Ricat structure. That's what it's like officially called. Right. And that, when you look at it, it's really interesting because you can see that like, oh, maybe it didn't sink into the ocean like this. Maybe it was like pulled.
I also heard a theory about Atlantis being not just one singular place, but different places that all interconnected, and that Atlantis was one bigger place that was created by 7 different mages.
Oh, interesting.
And holy places, right? That they were these places of reverence.
And that links up because like 40 kilometers is really long. That is a far enough apart from each other that you could have like separate little like townships or villages or whatever it would be. Different
and you can see it from like on Google Earth from above, like how it all
you can Yeah, you can absolutely see it. If you punch in the eye of the Sahara, you could just see it. If you look it up on Google,
Do you think
on
Plato could
images.
remote view? Is it
Maybe,
downloaded information from aliens?
maybe they flew up in a UFO
See,
and they
this
flew
is
them
why
over.
conspiracy theories are awesome, because you just go,
Let's
what
go.
about maybe this? What about
Well,
this?
the moment it becomes
I think
a
any of
theory, or
those
the
are,
moment it becomes,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the moment it becomes like fantastic, you open up the door for like anything to be true inside of it, and I find
Yeah.
that really fun. Where it's like, is it an arsonist or is it a demon, or is it just a weird volcanic formation, or is it a the last resting site of a ancient civilization that vanished under the ocean? You're like,
Is
oh,
it an
that's
arsonist that was possessed by a demon and influenced to do it?
100%.
There's
Is
a
it a series of
third option.
circumstance? Is it a
Yes.
series of strange circumstances in the White House, or is it a series of influences due
Series
to
of,
the grief of one mother's loss of her child that has
yeah.
just continued to like ripple through?
Yeah, when I was
history?
listening to that too, I'm like, sure, there's a demon in the White House and we're going to blame the grieving mothers.
Oh yeah, yeah,
This is kind of where my saucy brain went first. Like, we're
yeah.
sure there is. We're going to blame the mothers who wanted to, reach out to their children.
Yeah, yeah. Somehow it'll always end up being girls' fault, which not great. I don't like that.
No,
No,
no, no, no, no.
no.
So do your clients, when you are when you're cutting hair and your clients are engaged in those sort of conspiracy conversations with you, do they come up with other questions and possibilities as well too? Does it
Oh
turn
yeah,
into a big major deep dive?
it totally just sparks it, or we just get like totally sidetracked. Some people just laugh and think it's fun. I laugh and I think it's fun.
The
I think it's
celebrities,
great.
the celebrity ones are pretty fun as well too. We could do a whole episode just on
Oh,
celebrity
like
conspiracy
Elvis not
theories.
being dead, or
Mm,
Tupac working at
mm.
the DMZ. Elvis not dying. How old would he be now
I don't
if he
know.
wasn't dead? I don't
I
think he'd
don't
be
know.
dead of old age. Not that
I
old.
was born in 71, so it was still before my time. So I'm not, I mean, I'm a fan, but not that big of a fan to know the date.
Because I feel like by now, okay. So I feel follow me down this. Elvis
If
didn't
he was
die,
eating
but
all
by
of those,
2023, like he's
yeah,
probably by now he would be.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless there's some add alien factors to it, some sort of,
What's that line from Men in Black? Where it's like Elvis didn't die, he went home. I love that line.
right?
Yeah, he went home.
Yes. There's a lot like that. There's a lot of stories like that. So I'm just, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, no
It was
problem.
fun.
It was fun.
But you just go on, and there's so many. We didn't get to the Denver, Colorado airport.
Dang
And
it, we didn't. Actually, you're
no,
right.
we didn't get to that one at all, but it hits all of the markers of a good conspiracy. It's got weird sculptures, aliens, secret bunkers, secret society.
Illuminati. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got
that's there.
like gargoyles. It's got that big blue, and it's like a 9,000 pound, 32-foot tall blue horse structure with glow in the dark red eyeballs that fell over and killed the sculptor that made it.
Yeah, that's so wild to me. That's so
Yeah.
wild to me.
So
Dang, we should
it's
have talked
just,
about that one sooner. Ah, frick. It's
that's
okay.
okay. There's so many layers to it. There's this people can look at it if they don't know much about it. There's the art and the architecture. It just leads to the conspiracy stories, right? And the conspiracy
Yeah.
theories. There's a mural, and the mural is something about when a child dreams, or a child dreams of peace, something like that. A child dreams of peace. And So you see a sleeping child. There is a sleeping child as part of this mural, but it's this tiny little section to the, a little bit to the left at the bottom. The biggest image on that mural is looks like a Nazi war uniform dude
Oh, weird.
with a gas mask holding
What?
a machine gun and a sword over top of the sleeping child. And
That's
then
so weird.
there's
I didn't
this
know that.
yeah, there's a rainbow that looks like, a rainbow, all the colors of the rainbow, and then it's a little bit over the child, but as it gets towards just before the middle and to the rest behind this image that does have some Nazi symbolism to it, not gonna lie. That's the first thing you see when you're looking at it. It fades out, so the rainbow isn't there anymore. So it's like this nightmare on one side and but it isn't even
So weird.
a full rainbow dreamy happy side, because above the child is this woman crying holding a baby that looks like it's not sleeping, this baby that looks like it has died, with this row of children going up underneath the rainbow towards the
What the,
yeah, like
what
it's
the hell? It's so weird.
the
What are the
Colorado
what are the
International
chances?
Airport.
What are the chances that people linked to secret societies are like flying through the Colorado airport on their way to Bohemian Grove? Have you heard about Bohemian Grove? Because that one's just real. I mean, it's
I don't
just
know
a joke.
anything.
It's just a joke. I'm just making a joke, but it anyway. So it's totally real, and there's like footage of like this secret society
But
the global elite praying
they
to a giant owl. Like,
they don't well, so the owls are a whole other thing, Taylor, and owls are
ah,
connected to aliens. So then we just go into a bigger story if we tap into that.
oh
But
man,
with the Denver, Colorado airport, or yeah, with that airport, there are these bunkers that are underneath, and these tunnels, supposed tunnels and bunkers that the
yeah,
elite are supposed to go to if the apocalypse ever happens. And
oh man,
then somebody else said that there was aliens in it. I mean, all of it is good marketing for the airport, really.
it's amazing marketing because now I want to go.
Yeah, everybody's going to
Now,
want to
I,
go.
now I really want to go.
Um, how can if I mean, you write poetry, you take amazing photographs,
Oh, thank you.
um yeah, you post all of your barbering journey and clients. You post all of that stuff on Instagram. How can people find you if they wanted to take a
Um,
creepy peek at the stuff that you do?
You can find me on Instagram at committing rhymes. It's just one
This
page. I just put everything all on there. It's really just a page about everything that I do.
it's underscore, right? Committing underscore rhymes.
Yeah, it's at committing underscore rhymes. It used to be a poetry page. Now it's a hair page. Pretty soon it's going to be a photography page. Um, it's where I dump my creativity. It's where it all
I
goes.
yeah, I
Find me
just
there. You say hi. You reach out.
yeah, it's
Cut your
brilliant.
hair. Come by the shop. We can
Come
talk
by this,
conspiracy theories.
and maybe the in-house ghost will hang out for a
It's the
little bit of
freakiest
a
thing.
ghost
That's
story
honestly
chat.
like the freakiest thing.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah,
Well, thanks
yeah.
for being here. Thanks for hanging out with
Yeah.
me, and I think that we
Thank you.
can do a round two at some point in time.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be great. So, thank you everybody that's been listening to our paranormal conspiracy theory chat and just hanging out. Um, thank you so much to the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 New Orleans.